Hey there, Ryan Kingsline here. I want to show you these brushes, right? I put together a couple brushes. Depends on when you download this, how many there are. It's starting with 6, and it's been a long time since I put brushes in ZBrush. The last brush I put in there was Clay Tubes, Rake, and the Slash brushes. I spent a lot of time when I worked at Pixelogic kind of developing those brushes. And, since then I've been using some of my own here and there for these different tasks, but I never really shared them because it's, basic settings. But it'll be fairly useful, I think, for you to have these. And so the brushes that I've got now are these guys right here with the ball stylus, the hair geometry, the hair texturing, the knife. I've got 2 different knives. I've got a rake. And it's just these little sets of brushes right here in this first iteration that are important. And the ones that I use the most are my my rake brush, right? Just this one. And let me show you exactly what I use this for. I'm going to go down a few subdivisions. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to divide it again. So we start out with just kind of a basic texture to this. And for me, this rake brush, my version of the rake brush, I put the first rake brush in ZBrush. This is the one I got to develop as well, way back in the day. And this one now has a couple of iterations that I think are relatively important to help this thing have a kind of a beauty to it. And this brush is one that I use both for creating form. So you can see the way that I go travel a long form, and then I'll round that out and then cut off some ends here and there. This is all part of the digital sculpting method that I use. A little bit of a method to the madness of learning sculpting, right? And the key thing is you build volume first, in which case you lay down form along the track, and then you go in and you establish curvature. So you're establishing, I'd say, kind of depth and value or offset, and then you go in and you establish shape a little bit more clearly. And this brush again is the one that I use all the time now. This is in contrast to the original rake brush that I had the benefit, the pleasure, I was quite blessed to work at Pixelogic back in the early days. This one is too soft. So I've made a couple of modifications to this to make this the new rake brush a little cleaner for you. And you can see it leaves much more of the actual end result that you get here. And one of the things I really love about the rake brush is if you really start to work this, make sure you set the embed to 5. If it doesn't come there at that, set it to 5. But at a certain point, you can start to really get in here, and with a small brush and low draw size, you can get a small brush and low depth embed. You can get beautiful forms just out of that. You gotta be careful it doesn't get too generic. This is one of the problems I have with the rake brushes. You gotta work to keep that form kind of specific and its own beast. So this is a very powerful brush. Then there is the knife, and this one's a variation. It's a small variation inside of Damien's standard brush, and it's really just a couple of small tweaks to give you a little bit of a cleaner edge. So when you use this brush, the thing you got to keep in mind is a sketch stroke really helps. And if you want a nice little trick, something to do is switch your alpha over here to alpha 18, and this just makes it a little bit of a thicker, harder one as well. So this is kind of a nice little addition to the conversation. And then you can come back and let's switch that back before we lose it, and then come back in and get our rake, and then you can kind of rake right up to that. Scoot one side out. There we go. There you go. Voila. Okay. Little bits of work there. The other one is just the normal knife brush that I have. And this knife brush is a super clean line. Okay, this is a variation, a small variation on the /2 brush, which I was able to put in the first ZBrush. And this is really nice for just drawing and getting some kind of form. You don't want wrinkles down there. There you go. So this one can be kind of cool to just incise a few lines here and there. I love it. Now, another brush that I love is this little hair texture brush. It does some pretty cool things. So I cleaned up the form here for you so I could get so I could show you this. It benefits with a clear surface. Now, this is a pretty cool brush because it's actually using alpha modify. It's using mid value, and it's a variation on /3 with some cool changes in there. But the way this works is you go back and forth, and it's important because the way that setting works is it'll go push one way when you go down a stroke, and then it pushes the other way when you go up the stroke. So in order for you to get the best quality of it, where you're actually getting a big form and then you'll get a little lip, and then a big form and a little lip, in order for you to do that, you really got to learn to just go back and forth. And gently, of course. But look at what kind of quality this is giving you. Now, there's a couple of tricks I'll share with you on this, because one of the problems that people can get into with this is it just gets very mechanical, right? And don't forget to press Alt as well. You know, it's not just one, but Alt, and that'll get a little bit more variety in all of that. See that, how that Alt really is just giving you some beautiful movement. Okay, and then I'm gonna phone this in a little bit back here, but mostly just to show you, you know, how this whole thing kind of works. So by phone it in, I mean I'm not giving it the full, you know, presidential treatment. Voila, back and forth, press Alt, back and forth. There you go. Look at that. Okay, now once you've got something like this, you can come in and you can press Shift and smooth, and that's pretty cool right there, right? And then you can go over this and establish a couple of layers, but this is a real nice, easy way to get some quality to that hair. You can come in, and in the back, you use this with more of the musicality, where you're establishing the chunks and the rhythms. You know, and this stuff, it's hard, but you know, you can come in and you can start to get some of this movement, lower your brush size. Okay, continue. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Don't forget to press Alt every now and then to change the flow of this conversation. And there you go. Get some nice, beautiful form. You got to be careful because, you know, sometimes, and you'll learn this, like you see this is a nasty little break, and it's coming from the way in which I used the brush. So you got to just get in with the flow, and if you're in trouble, you smooth it out, go back up, and you just work that. Now, usually this is a little bit better if you're kind of a close in, because then you can kind of see what you're doing. And then don't forget that you can also mask out what you're doing, and then use that to add another layer to the quality of this. So you can get some kind of interesting work in this direction. I kind of like this. But now the other thing I want to show you is if you come into the brush and you just go into the pinch. One of the cool things about this, let's go into pinch here, is you got a lot of regularity going on right in here. But now if I was to come in and say move some of these guys together and start to clump them a little bit, you get some really nice reactions in there. You start to break up that symmetry. And then there's one more thing I'll show you. You can come in here with the fold brush, turn this intensity way down. Because this brush is intense, and turn RGB off. But there you go. And this is a real directional brush too, so you can go see how it's folding that form. can use this to really create some big movements in the piece, like that. Right? And then we come back in here, and let's go back into our hair texture. You can always come into geometry deformation and you can relax this stuff. It's always an option. Okay, you know, save your model before you do that, but you can relax, and that'll refit some of the topology so it's not so crazy. This is not a ZBrush specific feature. This is just something for you to kind of chew on. Let's press Alt. There we go. And do we have a higher piece? No, that'll work. There we go. Back and forth. Okay. All right. Now we're starting to create a little bit more depth and a little bit more variety in that side as opposed to this side, right? You see, that's kind of cooler. There's a little bit more happening, and I feel more comfortable with it. Whereas the other side doesn't have any of that beautiful, and it's just here. So the other thing you can do is just come in, and you got to change your draw size a lot. So you do big, then you do small, and that's going to give you these smaller little details to be mindful of. Okay, but come in here and select the fold brush and start to get some crazy in there. There you go. There you go. That's pretty powerful. Smooth that stuff out. Coming in the other direction. There you go. And then back to my hair texture. Lots of crazy, right? But this, what we're looking to do when we do stuff like hairs, you're looking for process and procedure as much as humanly possible. You don't really want to be in this place where it's like each strand I'm thinking about. You want to have a procedure, you want to have a process that really helps you communicate all the things that you really want to do. There, now it's getting more interesting, right? All right, I'll leave you to create the magic. It is something that takes some time, some getting used to, and some process. Now, I've shown you a couple of things. Now, let's take a look at the ball stylus. This thing's kind of important. I use this in a lot of different ways. One of them is actually the opposite of a ball stylus. I will use it to add geometry. And so I come in and I'll just say my embed at 5. I don't know, let's turn symmetry on. And so I'll come in and use this to do some layering, like this. All right, that starts to set up some of the layering pattern for hair. Then you could come in and do this a little bit smaller. And then, you know, if we come into the face, this is a big form builder for me in the early stages. Coming in and a little bit softer than the clay buildup. And it helps me get in here and really just push in edges. There you go. All right, and then build up a little. There, okay. Get a little bit cleaner quality without the clay buildup squareness, which is really one of the primary differences there. That's kind of all we've got. Now, the other thing, and the last brush, is the geometry hair. So this brush I kind of like. There's several different types of geometry it adds. It'll add in a little piece like that. It's going to need me to get rid of subdivision levels, so there you go. And lower your draw size. There you go. Alt, or just click outside of that, and then you can kind of shift smooth one section. Okay, and then I like to come into this with my rake brush to kind of, let's just focus on this. No, let's do standard brush. Push in. I really like to kind of just get right in that line and start to add a little something to it. There you go. There is also a bit of a strap one, but if we were to divide that, yeah, then you get this nice little strap hanging out in there. This is something that you can pull a lot of different ways. Let's come in here to the hair geometry, and this is another nice one, this cluster. So we can come in and be like, yeah, let's do that. Okay, let's delete the higher. Lower the draw size, there you go. Click outside of that and smooth this guy out. And then when you do this with these pieces, the next thing I do is I come into poly groups and I'll say auto group. You know, that way I can come in, because there's actually several little pieces all right there. There's actually 4. But I can go into brush, auto masking, and I can say mask by poly group, and I can just say pull, let's say the standard brush, not the standard brush, the move brush. And I'm gonna, sometimes it's a little, let's divide it. That'll give me more tooth. Now, let's use this one. Move that up in there. Tuck that inside the skull. There you go. And if you're having trouble, change your tactic. So, and you can turn the view mask off. There you go. Now, musicality is really important when I do this. So I'm not going to have that just identical. Try that again. And let's get the rhythm. What's going on? All of them. This one. And invert. Voila. Okay, again, musicality, which is really just the overlap. Okay, and then there's one more. Okay, and then that one's a little deep, so I'm just going to move them without seeing it. There you go. Snake hook is sometimes the better brush for taking ends in. And then once you find a rhythm that you like, then you can always come back into the hair geo, use a single piece, lower this way down. Yeah, delete the lower. And don't forget the musicality. So push it down on one side, lift it up on the other. Okay, and continue the direction. One of the things this is the part I really love about hair, is just getting in there and starting to see. snake hook. It's just going to be a little nicer in terms of how it pulls form around for me. See, it kind of pulls form and fills in spaces. I like that. Alright, so there you go. That's a lot of work. You know, there ain't no question about that. But it's quite a powerful tool once you get the hang of it. And especially for little bits of accents. So, for example, in his hair here, there are these kind of separate pieces hanging out that are pulled in much like that. You can see them as different pieces of geometry. And you know, so they come in and they help add some structure in different places, like this piece. This helped me here, and then it helped me over there, and helped on the other side. You know, but and then right in there as well. Just adds another level of control to it. So there you go, my friend. I've just created these 6 brushes. They're the 6 I use, you know, a lot. The Rake Brush is a big one, and I also use clay buildup. There was no reason to create my own version of that, but I will tell you the one thing I do with clay buildup is I come into stroke. I'll go into lazy mouse, and I set lazy step to 0.05 every single time I do this, and then I will come in, and in my depth and embed I set that to 5. You know, that's a precursor for me to doing this. So let's set this on the face. That would be wise. Then it's not so out of control, and this is my building block. This is how I build form. Again, with the digital sculpting method, going down the contour and then going around. Down and then around to create the shape, the specific shape of whatever it is that we're working on. Like that. There you go. Build that form in and then round it. This is how I work. Little bit by little bit. You just build this stuff a little bit. Help make all of this happen. All right, my friend, and hope you enjoy these brushes. And make sure that you, if you can, leave me a comment and let me know how you enjoy them. That way I know whether or not to make more of these or not. And then I'll talk to you later.